Speaker recognizes Representative Stone.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to speak in support of Senate Bill 12 on the repeal of arbitrary and punitive retention of Michigan's third-grade students. Every student deserves the opportunity to receive high-quality reading instruction. Every struggling student deserves targeted intervention to get them back on track. Michigan's public education prepares our most valuable resource, our children, to be engaged citizens and to be contributing members of the community. Being literate is an essential skill. While I believe there was good intent in the development of this legislation, as a professional educator, I recognize that the developmental and academic best practices were not given the respect of consideration when conceptualizing the practice of retaining 8- and 9-year-old students. With over 14 years as an educational professional, I've worked closely with successful learners, with students who struggle, and with parents who want for nothing more than their child to be successful. I'd like to share just a few professional understandings. First, children develop at different rates. At early stages, children do not yet identify as part of a peer group or cohort. If a child would benefit from additional developmental year, parents should consider making that decision sooner than later. Different iterations of Young Fives pre-kindergarten programs have been implemented over the years to create space for this opportunity. In some cases, parents even redshirt kindergartners to give them a developmental advantage. We will not wait until third grade to intervene when students are struggling with reading. Instead, Michigan puts kids on track to reading success, starting with high-quality early childhood educational programs. Senate Bill 12 maintains the investment in high-quality literacy instruction and targeted interventions to create every opportunity for Michigan students to see themselves as successful readers. It is important to recognize that by third grade, students identify as part of a peer group. Being separated from their peers due to performance on a standardized test leaves children questioning their sense of self-efficacy. My position on this legislation was solidified by meeting a young adult from Florida whose education was marked by a third grade reading retention, and he shared his experience. His mom was a teacher, his aunt was a teacher, and still he struggled. When he was retained, he felt he was being punished. He believed he was too stupid to learn to read. He felt he was being left behind by his friends and peers. He was embarrassed and humiliated. These feelings of inadequacy did not cease when he went on to the fourth grade and followed him the rest of his academic career. Punishments are not motivational. Punishments are not considered a reading strategy for success. Children are not willfully refusing to learn to read, and in fact, learning experiences can become reinforcing. Children who are successful develop an enjoyment of reading, receive praise, and continue to read. Children who struggle may avoid practice and develop a mindset they cannot or will not ever get it. Arbitrarily retaining students results in an increased dropout rate, increased rates of incarceration, and as such, continuing this policy of retention will continue to be counterproductive, failing to demonstrate improved long-term outcomes. Every child, every person for that fact, wants to feel successful and competent. No one wants to struggle, be confused, be embarrassed. Picture a foot race on a football field. Some students start at the 50-yard line, others are back in the end zone, and all the rest are sprinkled in between. When the starter's pistol sound, some kids are crawling, some have no shoes, some trip and stumble, and some have hurdles in their way, and yet some run like the wind. This visualization helps me explain why not every kid ends up making the same amount of progress when receiving reading instruction. Truly, there are any number of reasons students are struggling readers. Identifying struggling readers is where screening for learning disabilities and providing intensive interventions comes into play. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, which is why educators develop individualized reading plans. Every year, I return to elementary schools, classrooms, and teachers' lounges for March's Reading Month. And every year, elementary teachers ask if the legislature will finally remedy this legislation. I ask my colleagues to join me in supporting the repeal of arbitrary and punitive retention of third-grade students by voting yes on Senate Bill 12. Thank you, Madam Speaker.